Hi everyone, I'm Max from Postcard Mania, and this is the PCM Integrations How-To series. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use Zapier to seamlessly integrate Google Sheets with PCM's Direct Mail API. For starters, we're on the PCM Integrations homepage, and I'll have you scroll up to hover over Direct Mail Solutions in the nav bar, and you'll scroll down to Zapier Integrations and click on it. Which brings us to this helpful page that can give us some initial info as to what kind of automation Zapier can enable. As it says right there in the header, send triggered direct mail postcards using free automation. So Zapier acts as a middle layer between a whole host of programs and services, including Postcard Mania and a number of CRMs that you probably are quite familiar with. But before we really get going, I'll have you scroll down to this Zapier integration guide, which really could prove a helpful static resource for you if anything that you're trying to do with Zapier falls outside of the purview of this how-to video, specifically on Google Sheets. Which, to drive the point home, brings us to this really helpful visualization created by one of our talented designers here at Postcard Mania. As you can see on the left-hand side, you have your CRM or software, in this case Google Sheets, but it could also be Salesforce or Zoho, funneling information through Zapier, which then processes it, delivers it to Postcard Mania, and then we process that information to create postcards for you and your clients. So to really begin this how-to video, I'll have you scroll up and create a new tab. In this new tab, you'll want to type in docs.google.com/spreadsheets. So we're opening Google Sheets for you to log in, as this will be the first point through which we're going to connect to Zapier. As you can see, I have a sample list here. You'll want to have your main list with your list of customers and customer data, including their address and name, all available to you before we start. And so you can see here, my list has John Doe and then a New Jersey address, and including the headers that correspond with these different values. This will be important for you when you're creating your lists, though we're going to assume that you know how to create a list and know relatively what you're doing when it comes to managing lists to hook up to Zapier. So I'm just going to show you then how to do that process and set up your triggers so that when your trigger goes off, you get a postcard sent to the right customer at the right time. So save this list because you'll need it for later. But for now, I'm going to have you go to open another tab and type in zapier.com. So this should bring you to the Zapier homepage. I'm already logged in, so it brought me to my dashboard. But if you haven't created a free account on Zapier yet, this would be your time to do it. But before we can really do anything here, we have to open a new tab and log into portal.pcmintegrations.com. If you haven't created a PCM Integrations account, and thus a Direct Mail API account, this would be the time to create one. I created another video for you to show you the ins and outs of that process, but it's relatively straightforward. Once you're logged into the portal, I'll have you go back to the Zapier dashboard, where we are now going to start by creating the first trigger that will allow your direct mail to run seamlessly. So the first thing you're going to want to do is scroll up to the top left of the page and click the big orange button, Create Zap. This brings us to this two-pronged trigger action page. This is the beginning of your Zapier zap. The trigger is the event that starts the zap, right? That initiates the process, and the action is what happens after the event is already underway. And in this case, to send a postcard through Postcard Mania. So in this use case, our trigger is going to work through Google Sheets. So I'll have you search for Google Sheets in that search window under Trigger. So the next step is to choose an event. Each application will have a different selection of events, but these events are going to be the things that happen that trigger the sending of a postcard. So for example, with Google Sheets, you have a new or updated spreadsheet row, or a new or updated spreadsheet row only from a team drive, a new spreadsheet altogether, a new spreadsheet row, a new spreadsheet row, but from a team drive, or a new worksheet. I'm going to have us select new spreadsheet row, both because it happens instantly and because I want Postcard Mania to send a postcard anytime a new prospect enters my system. So next here, we're going to want to hit continue. And once you do that, you'll be taken to the account section. And this is where you'll log into Google Sheets. Connect your Google Sheets account to Zapier. So you'll hit sign in. It'll take you to a new window. You'll click on your Google account. So you can see I'm clicking on mine here. You click here to allow Zapier to see, edit, and create all of your Google Drive files. This is, of course, what you have to do to integrate these systems. And once you do that, once your Google Sheet is connected, it'll look like this. And then you're going to want to hit continue once again. Which brings us to actually selecting the spreadsheet. So as you'll see, there's this first drop down that says spreadsheet, and there's my sample list. So we'll select that. And then we also have to select the worksheet within that spreadsheet, which is also my sample list. And so you'll select that. And once you have yours sorted, you can click continue once again. Which brings us to the test. Testing your trigger and all of the setup that we've just done. So you're going to want to click test trigger. And here you'll see the spreadsheet row from your spreadsheet with all of the information. So for example, with mine, I have John Doe, I have the New Jersey address. You might have more rows. And once you select one to begin the test with, we can actually continue with that selected record. And there we go. Now we're going to set up the action because you can't test your trigger unless there's something that follows. So what is it we're trying to achieve? Well, to send a postcard with Postcard Mania. So type in Postcard Mania here. You'll see it come up. We'll click on it. So now once we've clicked on it, it's time to choose an event. There is only one event in Zapier for Postcard Mania, which is send a postcard. And so once we've selected send a postcard, you'll hit continue. And this is where we're going to log in now to Postcard Mania. So you've clicked that, it's opened an extra window, and you have a username, a password, and an API key. So as you'll remember, you have the direct mail portal logged in and open. So you'll want to type in your username. And then, of course, your password. And once that's all typed in, you're going to go to the Direct Mail Portal tab, which then has your overview page. And on the left-hand side, you're going to scroll down to Settings and then click API Keys. Now, the API key is what provides external authorization to any program or service, in this case Zapier, to log in and access the direct mail API. There are two kinds, as you can see. The production key, which is the live API key. So if you're testing with the production key, that test will result in an actual sent postcard. And then the sandbox key, which allows you to test without actually sending any postcard at the other end. You'll just receive an order number and a batch ID, but we won't fulfill it and ship it to the address. All right, so let's copy the sandbox key and head back to the Zapier tab. Paste it in under API key, and then hit yes, continue to Postcard Mania. All right, so once we head back to Zapier, you'll see now that we are logged in, Postcard Mania and my email address. Yours should look similar. Once you've verified that, you'll scroll down and hit continue. So now you'll see we're actually building out the action, right? So it's asking for a design ID. This is where we'll start creating the details of your postcard. And so what we're going to do is go back to the direct mail portal. On the left, under Designs, we're going to click Postcards. So this takes us to a list of postcard designs and templates, each with their own unique ID. So you'll see the 6x11 or the 4x6 or the 6x9. Each has subtly different features, but I'm going to have us click on 2107. And on the right side, you'll see the details button. So this takes us to an extensive details page, which as you can see has the postcard dimensions front and back, and also all of the variables, including the front card variable and the back card variable, which in our API are always URLs hosted elsewhere. We don't host images on our platform. You'll also see the return address variables, which are optional on this design. And so now we're going to want to remember the design ID and then head back to the Zapier tab. And so now we can choose the value for the design ID. As you'll see, the drop down, I'll scroll down and see it. There it is, 2107. Click that, which reveals a bunch of other drop downs that we're now going to assign values to. First is mail class, which you can see only has first class, so you'll want to select that. Next is first name, and so this is where we're actually going to be plugging in data from your Google Sheet. So as you'll see, here's the list of variables from my row in Google Sheets, and I'm going to click the first name header, John. From there, we'll exit out, and you can see now that we'll just assign each value to its corresponding value in the Google Sheet. So last name, address to, which even though it has no value, we'll still want to connect in case future addresses have an address to. City, state, and finally, zip code. So now that we've plugged in that data, this brings us to the customer data section, right? And these are the values that we just saw in the details page on the design of the postcard. So you have here the back of the card, which is a URL to an image hosted elsewhere. The company address. This functions as the return address, and as you can see, they are not required. So now I'm pasting in a back of the card URL from an Amazon postcard that's also a 6x4. And then I'll be filling in the data for the return address, and I'm just using Postcard Mania's return address. And then I'm going to paste in another URL for the front of the card, similarly, just a 6x4 from Amazon. And once that's all there, you can hit continue, which shows us our completed order request. So you can see the address, the URL, the return address, all the relevant information to send your postcard is right there. Once you're happy with that info, you can select test action. And this is going to test sending a postcard. And there's the response, the batch ID and order ID from our API. So this is a successful test. You can see address verification was verified, successful recipient count 1. So now, if you use the live production key, your postcard would shortly be on its way to the customer. And if you're happy with this, you can hit publish, which will create a Zap that automatically reads new rows from your Google Sheets and sends postcards to your customers. All right, so your Zap is on. Now we're going to go to my Zaps and we can see what it looks like in the dashboard. So you'll see there it says Untitled Zap. So I'm going to quickly rename it. We'll call this New Customer Postcard. So now your New Customer Postcard Zap is up and running. So let me quickly show you some of the functionality. So you can go to My Apps and see here that Google Sheets and Postcard Mania are both apps that you're connected to and working with. Similarly, you can go to Zap History to see the history of your tasks. Currently, we have none because you haven't created a new row in your spreadsheet, only the test. But you'll come here to see the history of your tasks as they are fulfilled by Zapier, connecting our API with Google Sheets. So now let's go to the dashboard. And then I'm going to have you go to Google Sheets and open up the sheet that is connected to the Zap, and we'll create our first trigger. So you'll see I'm clicking on Sample List. And now I'm going to type in all the information one would need to create a new trigger. So I'm adding a customer, my first and last name, my zip code, state, city, country, address, etc. So once the customer's information is all added in, I'll exit out of the list and head back to the Zapier dashboard. We'll click again on Zap History because that's where we'll see a log of what we just did, adding a new customer to the Google Sheet. And so sometimes it takes a moment, but I'll refresh. And voila, there is your first Zap. So now the address of the customer, myself, that I added into the Google Sheet has been processed through Zapier and automatically sent to the direct mail portal where your postcard is on its way. And so the one last place we need to look to verify this is back in the direct mail portal. So if we'll click on the direct mail portal tab, click on Overview, Orders, and there we are. This top one is our order. And there we have it. So on behalf of Postcard Mania, I really hope that this how-to video showing you how to connect Google Sheets to the Postcard Mania API via Zapier has been helpful, and there'll be more how-to videos to come. In the meantime, have a good one.